I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Eric Armstrong. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Sales. So today, we're going to sit here and talk to you a little bit about promises and what it is to be a promise ambassador. We're not going to talk about brand because it's really not a brand, and we're going to talk about that a little bit why we get there. So, Amos, go ahead and bring us up the first slide. You know, last week, Steve brought up this brochure, and I hope you've all had a chance to read it because it's really important to me. It's really important to us as a company. I mean, did everybody get a chance to look it over? And I know there's a lot of stuff in there, and a lot of it seems kind of like, wow, this is really rah-rah, but it is. This is who we are as a company, and I feel like it's who we are as a company. There's a couple of lines that stand out to me in this particular text we're showing you here on the screen. Innovation starts on a customer shop floor. And for our sales department and our reps around the world, that's true. We do something unique in the railroad industry, and that is we go to the customer shop floor and we ask them a lot of questions. We find out that they actually are looking for solutions. It's the only place that you're ever going to really get to get to the customer and find out what problems they need solved. You're not going to find a customer sitting behind a desk in an office building that's going to have a lot of problems. They all came from the shop floor, right? So that's a unique thing that our company does that really, something that used to happen in the rail industry but doesn't happen anymore. Only at Millard-Felpax do we get out on the customer shop floor and really dig for where the customer's problems are. And then the other line that really strikes me, the one that I really like, is we strive simply and humbly to be everyday heroes to our customers. And I'm going to have an example here in a few minutes about how we were a hero to our customers. I'm going to tell you why. But it's something that we do every day. We practice it every day, and I see that. This language came from a meeting that we had that some of you attended. I think probably 8 or 9 of you, went over to the Holiday Inn Express last winter, and we talked about everyday heroes. And this is language that really came from us, that we really do. We just feel like we're doing our job. It's not like this is just part of it, and that's because of our values. So, how do we do the why? You remember this thing, it comes back, it starts with the why, it goes to the how and the what. Well, how do we do it? We do it by making a promise. So Amos, you want to go to the next slide? Oops, I guess I was supposed to lead off with this, but this is a promise that a company makes. Everything we do, we strive to challenge the status quo. We think differently. Would everyone agree that Apple does that? That's the promise that they make. And they very positively say that out there. Everything we do to challenge the status quo. And I mean, look at the products they've got. Just a few months ago here, they were the largest company in the world. I think they do a pretty good job of actually fulfilling the promise that they make. We're going to talk a little bit about broken promises here. Here's one, if you guys can guess, kind of listen to it. In 1985, there was a company that had a flagship product. The product was famous around the world. Everyone loved it. Everyone thought it was the best product in the world. It had extraordinary sales, but the people in the company thought that the younger consumers of their product were starting to find favor with their competitor. So what did they do? They changed the product. When they changed the product, it was a complete uproar. They had letters to the company. They actually had people writing letters to U.S. Congress to get them to pass a law to force this company to go back and make their old product. Anyone want to take a guess what it is? Yep. Go ahead. Coca-Cola is the answer. You're absolutely right, Jim. You got it right on. Coca-Cola went out there. They changed the product. I don't know. There's some of you may be a little young for remembering this, but they came up with New Coke. It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. But why? They broke their promise. They had a promise. They had a promise that everyone expected, and they missed it. We can't afford to break our promises. So I'll tell you about another one here, and this is one that a lot of you guys know that I'm into cycling. I love to bicycle. And there was a recent case where something in cycling got broken. Go ahead and flip the slide. Some of you may remember this guy. Did he break a promise? Was he authentic in what he did and what he said? No, he lied. He lied to all of us. He cheated. How would you feel if you were the Nike swoosh on his sleeve or the United States Post Office on his cap. They're actually, the United States Post Office is trying to sue him and get their money back. He was in breach of contract. So we have to be careful when we make a promise because we can't afford to break it. The beautiful thing about our promise, and that's this piece right here, the beautiful thing about our promise is we're authentic, right? I mean, this is who we are, so we don't need to worry about it. Go ahead, Amos. Our promise is our values. Every part of our values, the things that are right there, is what we do. And we keep that promise every day. We do it as everyday heroes. You guys are everyday heroes, and you fulfill, you deliver on that promise. So our promise is our values, and I think it's real important that as promise ambassadors, we remember that the only thing we have to do is be authentic and just do the things that we do every day. So go ahead and give us the next slide, Amos. He's going to give you a little chance to watch a video here.
We have a situation brewing with carbon dioxide.
We have CO2 filter farm on the module.
5 filters on the lane.
We're coming for 2 guys for a day and a half.
So I told the doctor, you're already up to 8 on the gauges. Anything over 15 and you get impaired judgment, blackouts, the beginnings of brain asphyxia.
What about the scrubbers on the command module?
They take square cartridges, ones on the limo round.
Tell me this isn't a government operation.
This just isn't a contingency we've remotely looked at. Those CO2 levels are going to be getting toxic.
Well, I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole. Rapidly.
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized. Okay.
That was a real life situation. Does everybody remember the movie, or anybody remember the movie? Yes? Okay. Yeah, this was Apollo 13. This is where the astronauts had left Earth orbit and they were heading for the moon, and they had a crash. They had something happen to the command module, and literally the only way they could get them back was to fly them around the moon and come back to the Earth. Well, they didn't have a lot of systems on support. I mean, these guys, there was three men that were up there, and they literally had their life in the hands of these guys. They had to figure out a way to change these filters so that they would have enough oxygen to breathe till they got back to Earth. There was no choice. There was no, I think one of the famous quotes from this is, "There's no room for failure here. It's a must. We had to do it." Well, you probably wonder why I bring this up. First of all, do you think that those values of ours represent what those guys, the values that they had to have to make that happen? Yeah. Go to the next slide, Amos. I don't know, I think a few of you might see where this is going. Kevin Boger, I kind of think you probably do. We had a situation at Union Pacific recently. You probably heard that they canceled a big order. Well, let's tell you why they canceled a big order. They had a locomotive series of, you know, when EMD makes locomotives, they make them like in a long series. They had a locomotive series that they had bolts breaking on their fuel tanks, and literally when these locomotives were running down the track, they were dropping their fuel tanks. What would that be like to watching a crash, huh? So they've been trying to fix this problem for going on 10 years, and they had a situation where Union Pacific realized they had to stop running these locomotives. They just had to get them off the road because they were a safety danger to everyone. Anybody who saw the thing that happened up in Quebec here a week or so ago understands why. You can blow up a whole town with a train. So Union Pacific had these locomotives and they had to get them off the road. Well, they happened to be the locomotives that we were in the middle of the project for all those truck kits on. And our problem was that we didn't want to see that sale canceled. Plus, we have about 300 of those springs that we can't get rid of because they only go on that locomotive model. And I think some of you know the difference between this spring and the one that goes on the SD70 is that those pins are turned 90 degrees. That's the only difference. Spring rate, everything else is the same. When I brought this to Randy and his team, all you guys, you came up with a solution. How do we get these pins turned 90 degrees? Well, you grind them off, you drill and tap over here, and you put the pins back in. Elegant solution. I went to Union Pacific and said, hey, I think we can make those springs work. Instead of you guys having to pay me $300,000 in a cancellation fee for a bunch of stuff we're going to all haul off to the dump, we solved the problem. And it was much like the scene in Apollo 13 there, the way we did it. I mean, Mike Blank's desk was the one that was trying to figure out, what do I do with all this stuff? It was amazing what happened, and what it's turned out to be now is UP is going to replace the sales we lost with that order with SD70 kits that are going to go to Little Rock. Turned out to be a great deal for us. Turned out to be a great deal for Union Pacific. Let me tell you why. They didn't have to spend $300,000 on a bunch of stuff they'll never use, and we went to the dump. And what they will do is use our kits instead. EMD didn't treat them quite so well. EMD had almost $1 million worth of material on the ground plus another $1 million on order. They're forcing Union Pacific to pay that $2 million to take all that stuff and take it to the dump. That wasn't very customer-centric, was it? Who do you think they love today? They love us. Why? Because we delivered on our promise. It was just that simple. So when I say that the reason we know that we can deliver on our promise and we're authentic is because this is the everyday hero stuff that we do. So go ahead and move on here. I didn't talk about this in the beginning when it was up there because I wanted to let you guys think about a brand and a promise and what they really are. Brand is a promise. But what I'm really interested in you folks doing is I'm interested in you helping me and helping Kevin and helping Keith and Christy get this message out. We need to get this message out. We need folks to see on the outside world who we really are inside. I don't think they see it around Winona. I don't think they see it. I know they don't see it, the customers, and I'm really sure that around the world, if we look, I know they don't know who we are. If the customers learn who we are, we're going to have that opportunity to get in there and solve those problems all the time and create products that are going to really help all of us. They're going to solve the problem for the customer, and ultimately they're going to build and grow our business. So that's what we want to, the promise message we want to get out there. So Amos, let's look at the next slide. Who do we want to, everyone in this picture is who we want to get this message out to. Okay, we're not going to go after the moon yet or Mars or any of that, but these are the folks that so who do we want to get it out to? Where do we want to get it out to? We want to get it out to everyone. And by that I mean when you're at a family reunion and you're talking to your brother-in-law and who do you work for? Well, I work for this company called Miller Felpax. We live to take on a challenge. You know what's different about our company? Our sales guys actually go to the shop floor where the customer is, and they don't just go to the ivory towers and the guys in the desk. They actually get on the shop floor. They wear steel-toed shoes and they get acquainted with the folks that really matter. That's what I want you to tell. When you're at a Christmas party, when you see your friends, down the street, your softball game, get the message out to who we are, because this will, Ron, it's real important. I saw Ron here somewhere. Ron, it's real important. Our suppliers know our promise, because it's a promise to them too, isn't it? It's a promise all the way around the outside of this building. The key is the promise is inside the building. We got to get it out. Go ahead, Amos. How are we going to get it out? This isn't going to work. It's kind of what we've been doing up to now, is putting the message in a bottle and hoping that somebody finds it. And it's not because we haven't been trying. It's just we haven't done a good job of it. We're going to do a better job of it. We're going to do a much better job of getting the message out. That's why you see the signs. There's emails been going to our customers now on a regular basis for almost 6 months. Not spam emails like you get, but the email, if you got the email for me that went out on Monday, it showed this email came from Eric Armstrong, and it told you about, actually, the email we sent out this week had a couple of sentences out of our why statement, why we work. We're going to give it to them. We're going to tell them the why, how, and then we're going to tell them the what. We're going to give it to them a little bit at a time. As you know, this is a lot to digest in one sitting. So we're going to get it out, and we're going to broadcast it everywhere. So let's take the next. Yeah, shout it from the rooftops. Literally anywhere that you have a chance to tell someone about who we are, be a promise ambassador. Tell them what the promise that we're making as a company, because the promises to each other and the promises to the outside world. So, Amos, now is the time to toot your own horn. Thank you.